Tennis fans from around the world, welcome to Luke's Legends, presented by World Team Tennis. We have a very special guest today, Judy Murray. She has done it all. One of the most extraordinary coaches, authors, clinicians, and of course, probably the best tennis parent in the history of the game. Judy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So there's so much to cover. The number one thing, the hottest thing right now, please tell me your thoughts on what Roger tweeted out about maybe the WTA and the ATP merging. And that was talk way back in the 70s when Arthur Ashe and Billie Jean King and Stan Smith were talking about, hey, maybe we should join forces then. Is the time right now?
It feels like the time is right because everybody around the world is pulling together in so many different ways within their respective communities. So it kind of feels like the time for the men and the women to come much more closely together and work together, particularly in relation to getting the calendar sorted out for whenever the time is going to be right for getting the show on the road again.
What are your thoughts on that calendar? Because that is always going to be the big thing. I mean, your sons still play at the highest level. You know, Jamie and Andy have done extraordinary things in trying to piece together not just the normal calendar, but also Davis Cup. And you're a Fed Cup coach for Britain. Of course, then you've got the Olympics. How does that kind of shape moving forward in your mind?
I think for a while now, I think I've probably felt that we should just write off 2020 and start again in 2021. I think with of course, the health of everybody is the most important thing. But even if a vaccine were found and restrictions were lifted in terms of the social distancing, every country has its own different regulations in relation to travel, for example, travel in and out. And of course, the tennis circuit is a global circuit. So, you know, the players, the officials, everybody who makes the tournaments happen has got to feel safe and able to travel, I think, before anything can get on the road. So I think it's more likely to start up domestically. But I think in terms of the tours, my feeling is that it's probably better to give yourself plenty of time, take the time to plan it out and be ready for either the start of 2021 or kick off where we left off, Indian Wells. That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt because it will give us a bunch of time to take in as much information to get tested and all of that. My concern is if we do come back early, we're going to get a lot of players injured because I know a lot of tour players that aren't even hitting balls. How are your boys able to continue to train at this high level?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, everybody is probably able to keep physically fit. I think Andy and Jamie have both got small gyms in their house, but the actual hitting of the balls is impossible at the moment, you know, until some restriction is lifted to allow them to get somewhere near a court. And as you know, it's not even just about the hitting the balls. You know, nobody's played competitively for some weeks now. It's going to be a long time before they can. And, you know, it's not just the physical fitness, it's the match fitness, you know, and building up to where you left off is going to take quite some considerable time. And one of the things that Jamie has been busy with in the last few weeks is exploring the opportunity to do a behind closed doors 8-man event somewhere in London, probably with the top 8 players in Britain, so that they come together in a safe environment, no spectators and so forth. But it would at least give them the chance to play some competitive matches, and it would give the fans something to watch as well. So that's something that he's been exploring in the last few weeks, and you know, and this is great for him as well. You know, this is about learning to adapt to your situation, and he knows what the players need. He knows what might be possible, and he probably knows what isn't possible. So, you know, it's great to see him really taking a lead on that.
There are over 1 billion tennis players on the planet that played in 2019, and all those billion are going to be coming back to the sport. From your coaching perspective, whether you're an amateur player or you're a professional player, what's the best mindset? What's your advice to get them up to speed?
I think I don't work so much at the top of the game anymore. I made a conscious decision to come away from it and really focus on grassroots and building workforces in particular in order to get more people playing the game. You know, I'm all about making our sport fun and showcasing it in the best possible light. So I think for me, one of the one of the main things is, of course, you need to keep yourself fit in terms of, endurance, flexibility, agility, balance, and all of these things. But if you can find a wall to hit against, find a wall, because at least you can hit the ball, and you can develop all sorts of different routines to challenge yourself against a wall. If that isn't possible, Andy's got a great wall, by the way, in his drive. It's got a tiger face on it, and it says "Feed me," and he hits towards the tiger's mouth. Brilliant. But yeah, I think hitting walls are fantastic if you can get near one. But if not, then shadow strokes are one of the best things you can do, because that way you are moving your arms and legs in the way that tennis would ask you to, rather than lifting weights and so forth. So I think that's one of the best. And to keep your serving motion moving, because often when we don't play, or if we've been injured, that's the thing that goes when you start playing again, because there isn't anything in life that makes you really do much above your head. So I'd say do a lot of shadow stroking, even if you don't have a hitting wall.
Now I'm going to, shift gears a little bit, because there's no one, in my opinion, that's done a better, maybe Wayne Bryant, where your kids have such a great perspective and relationship with the game. They're great ambassadors for the game. They're great ambassadors, for your family name, but also they still play with a love and a passion in a sport where there's a lot of burnout. What is your secret? What's your family's superpower there?
I have absolutely no idea. But the most important thing is that you fall in love with the game, and you fall in love with the game at a young age because of the environment that is created around the game, at your local club or your school or your park. And the environments are created by people. And at our local club in Dunblane, when they were growing up, we had loads and loads of kids. I was the club coach without being any kind of great coach. I kind of fell into it. I started as a volunteer because there wasn't a coach, and sort of fell into it. But I understood kids, and I knew enough from my playing days that the things that I enjoyed the most were the things where I had lots of my friends around me, playing for the school team, playing for the club team, the big club nights, the fun American tournaments that we used to run with the pizza and the cakes afterwards. So I just kind of tried to replicate that, and it becomes like a kind of a big family affair at the club. And the boys loved being around it. And it wasn't just about tennis. There was table tennis in the clubhouse. There was a park across the road with a duck pond, and they would play football over there. But they loved the environment of it. And there was so many other kids, boys and girls, older than them, who would play with them all the time. And they fell in love with the sport. But they really loved competing. They loved the challenge of working out, how do I make things difficult for whoever's on the other side of the court? Yeah. And they're very sharp, very smart tactically, and they have lots of options, because the way I like to watch tennis was with lots of skill, hand skills, being able to vary the pace and the depth and the height and the spin at will. And, for me, those were the fun things. So when they were wee, I wanted them to be able to do all of those things. And of course, it stands you in great stead in the future, because you always have a plan A, a plan B, or a plan C if you have variety in your game. You don't see so much of that anymore. You see a lot of it being about power, and that almost like that's the only thing that can win. And I was almost like the opposite of that. So I think falling in love with the game at a young age, and the environments that are around you at the different stages of the game, will sustain that love for it. So there they are. They're 32 and 34. Andy's almost 33. And they're still loving what they're doing. Andy's playing in this virtual esports thing that right. Feliciano Lopez has set up. And, I was watching him this afternoon, just for a bit, and he's commentating on himself as he goes, oh, what did I do that for? Should never played a lob there. He's constantly analysing his tactical choices. And I'm thinking, that's what he's always done, and he's still loving it.
It's so interesting, this generation, because we're growing up with the McEnroes, the Connors, the Borgs, and different personalities. They weren't always, they were clashing, which made it very interesting. They were polarizing. You have Nastasi in there, Vitas Gerulaitis, Chrissy, Martina, Virginia Wade. Now it seems like they're all buddies. The girls and the guys get along really well. They have a really good perspective, considering this is the greatest generation ever to play the game. as they go through and look at the records that, what Andy has done with his generation, and then I include the Williams sisters in there, Sharapova in there, the Bry brothers in there, it will never be duplicated, but they're all good mates. What do you contribute that to?
I'm not sure, really. I think it's always felt to me that it can be a very lonely business, the tennis circuit, because you're away from home probably 30, 35 weeks of the year. You're living out a suitcase. If you are lucky enough to be able to afford an entourage of people around you, you can probably have some family, maybe some friends, and your fitness trainer and your hitting partner, all that around you, because you need your downtime. You need your balance, and certainly the players at the top of the game have quite big teams around them now, and the reason for that, not just the tennis side of things, the management side of it, and also the social side as well. But the game is certainly different in terms of earning potential, endorsements and prize money than it was all those years ago. And I don't know that I see it so much that they're all like great buddies. I think that you have your group that you are like-minded with, and I think Andy and Rafa and Novak all came up through around the same time through the juniors. They've known each other since they were 11 and 12, and they've actually together they've combined to put a lot of pressure on the slams to up the prize money. That was the three of them really that did that some time ago, and that's good. But I don't see them so much like going out for dinner during the tournaments and things like that.
Of course,
I think everybody does their own,
kind
of does their own thing. But yeah, I think at the moment, what I really like is watching Tennis United and seeing the guys and the girls chatting away together. And you see their personalities, and people love that. People love things where it's mixed. The slams are mixed. The major, Rome and Indian Wells and so forth. The events that have enough courts to have the men and women at the same venue, they're the biggest. They're the most popular. The fans love it, and we've got pretty equal fans, 50-50 between men and women who watch our sport. So we're so fortunate in so many ways. So I suppose what I'm getting round to is that I just see massive opportunity for this to bring the ATP and the WTA together instead of being, a little bit territorial about their patches.
Well,
so fingers crossed.
When you're going for the same sponsor and you're the same sport, if we're united, we can bring such a powerful presence as being the second most popular sport in the world behind soccer and just men and women. And, soccer really doesn't have a female presence the way we do. There's an NBA basketball or NFL football. It's just fantastic. You're associated with the Philadelphia Freedoms, World Team Tennis. But talk about that association and that talking about men and women, gender equity. And we're all, if you have a great team, you have men and women that really work together.
Oh, yeah. Last year was my first experience of that. And it was Billie Jean and Ilana who asked me if I would like to get involved. And I love the team concept of anything. I love anything that brings the men and the women together. So I thought, never tried it. I'd love to. So I went and I spent the first week of the season with them. We had a significant number of home matches in that first week. And so I was able to be with the team on the bench. Craig Carden, who's the coach, who does an absolutely brilliant job. I sat on the bench with him because he made me, and he kept saying, you go on and do the timeouts or the whatever. And I was going, no, I'm not doing it. Not for any other reason than I don't know the players well enough to jump on and be sure that I'm going to say the right thing. Because you know what it's like. You need to know the players inside out to know what to say, when to say, how to say, and when to say nothing at all. And he knew them inside out. He was absolutely brilliant at that. So I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of it, and I did a lot of the community engagement around the team. So a lot of workshops for sponsors, workshops for kids out in the community, for coaches, for parents. I did some Q&As with Billie Jean, which was a massive. I was just like in heaven. That was just, I couldn't believe it. She's my absolute idol from when I was small, and we share this same sort of passion for equality and growing the game. And she's so fascinating to listen to. And so sometimes I was sitting there pinching myself, going, is this really happening? I'm on the same team as Billie Jean King.
It's unbelievable. But
Jamie
played smash hits in London, Royal Albert Hall a couple years ago, and he said he had a blast. Did you watch that match?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. You know, and it was tagged on to the end of the Legends event at the Albert Hall, raised so much money. And, you know, Elton and Billie Jean, great friends for forever. And he has such a massive passion for tennis. So, yeah, Jamie was thrilled to bits to be asked to be part of that. But it's the same thing, isn't it? It's people coming together, like-minded, common cause, and loving what they're doing. And Jamie, he, you know, doubles as his thing. And he has a nice, sunny personality. And, you know, I think he's fun to play with. So I have it on good authority from all of his mixed doubles partner that he's the number one pick for mixed doubles.
That's great. That's great. So I do want to, you know, transition because you've experienced such an amazing tennis journey as a player, as a tennis parent that has such great approach and balance to making sure, you know, your kids have fun and still love it after all these years. Of all the great accomplishments that you've seen, you've got to like pinch yourself, you know, winning Wimbledon and breaking the drought from Fred Perry to Davis Cup, where your boys are playing together, representing Great Britain, and win it. It's Davis Cup, the Olympics at Wimbledon, in the London Games. You've got one experience, of course. And then, I mean, I remember when Andy won the U.S. Open, his first major, getting over that hump, and, you know, that amazing, just so many. When you start this process, you're like, you know, we love this game. You start playing some tournaments, you're pretty good. I'd like to play at the next level. And then you're just all these amazing accomplishments. If you only had one to pick, what is the one that you go to and you're like, that's the one for me out of all those amazing choices?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because for me, the biggest things have always been the things where the two of them are playing together. Yeah. So whether that's Olympics or Davis Cup. And I think that in 2015, which was the year that Great Britain won the Davis Cup, in the semi-final, they played against Australia in Glasgow. Now, tennis is a very much a minority sport in Scotland, and we have no major tournaments, never have had. So actually to have the semi-final of a Davis Cup in Glasgow, in the east end of Glasgow, which is a very deprived area of the city, was just this incredible thing. And it was a full house, about 9,000 people. And on the Saturday, the boys came out to play doubles together, and they were led out by the captain, who was Leon Smith, who I started off as a coach when he was 20. He came to me and asked if he could come and work with me. He wanted to be a coach. He dropped out of college. So I had mentored him all of his coaching life. And of course, he went on to become head of men's tennis and a very successful long-time Davis Cup captain. And then he's leading my kids out, who he's known since they were sort of 11 and 12. And we're in Scotland, and we've got 9,000 people going absolutely crazy. You know what Davis Cup atmospheres are like. And I just sat there with my phone, like going round like this, and with this band called the Red Hot Chili Pipers playing this kind of funky bagpipe music. Yeah. And I just thought, you know, this is unbelievable. This is just, you know, it was kind of brought everything together, everything that I started when I tried to grow tennis in Scotland. When I became the national coach, I kind of started with a blank canvas because there was no infrastructure. And I started with these 20 kids, and there was 2 of them out there playing in the Davis Cup semi-finals, although they were my own kids, obviously. But yeah, I think it was that one. It was just that whole sense of pride of this is in Scotland, and there's a coach that I've developed, I guess, and there's my kids, and, you know, I had all my family, my friends around me. So without question, that absolutely emotionally massive moment right there.
It's unbelievable. And it's the journey, you know, all the hard work, all the sacrifice. It's amazing. You live for those defining moments. And Judy, you are deeply valued and respected in the game of tennis around the world. And wherever you go, we love your smile. You're always up to give everybody a high five. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me. It was great fun speaking to you, Luke.
All right, join us next time when we have more great guests on Luke's Legends. You can catch us on WTT.com, Facebook, and Insta. See you next time.